Would you like a peek behind the curtain to understand the marketing strategies and processes that Harvest Growth uses to profitably launch and grow hundreds of businesses? Today's guest is one of Harvest Growth's senior digital marketers, Lisa Lewolt, and she does an amazing job teaching you how to make your digital marketing campaigns work to grow your business faster and more profitably.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm really excited to be having on the show with us one of our key employees, Lisa Lewolt. She, as you'll grow to understand throughout this interview, is a true expert in social media marketing, especially Facebook and Instagram, where we do a lot of our work for our clients. And we wanted to give a peek behind the curtain. We get so many questions of, hey, how do you guys perform so well for your clients? We've had a lot of clients over the years that have tried Facebook and Instagram. Oh, it didn't work. And come to us. We're able to turn their campaigns around and really make them work. And really, there's a process that goes into this. We're going to tell you some of the things that we do that will hopefully help you with your own campaigns. And of course, you can always reach out to us with any questions if you run into issues or need some help with your campaigns. But we want to dive deep today on what makes a Facebook and Instagram or general social media marketing campaign work. But first, I wanted to welcome Lisa to the show. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, John. I'm so excited to be here.
This will be a lot of fun to chat through this. You and I talk on a daily basis about making these campaigns work for our clients. And I'm really excited for you to be able to teach so many other people today, as opposed to just us, and some of our clients at one time. So one of the things I want to dive into first. So a lot of the phrases I'm going to use are things that you share with clients. So we'll have, email reports and phone calls, et cetera, as we have campaigns that are growing and improving each week. And some of these phrases you'll use, I'll bring up today. And some of them are a little different than maybe what the normal phraseology is for some. So I want to describe them. And then if you can explain how they impact campaigns and really help results. So the first one is social dynamics. Can you describe what it is and where'd you first learn about this?
So before I jump into that, I want to give you just a little bit of an intro. So obviously, there's a lot of marketing jargon and terminology that if you're not as familiar with marketing, it's going to go over your head. You're not going to get it. So what I wanted to do with you guys today is kind of give you some word pictures so that you can better understand some of these concepts, because obviously you have to be able to understand something before you can actually implement it. So obviously these examples are just kind of fun and funny, but I hope it'll help it make a little bit more sense. So when I was about college age, people always kind of assumed that because I was really outgoing, that dating came easy to me because it's easy for me to talk to people. Not true. So I grew up in the church, which I love. And but they would teach us, you don't really date, you court. So it's supposed to be like you're looking for your mate so that you don't hurt people's feelings and stuff. But I took that to mean okay, I need to find my husband on date number 1. And so I would be going on these dates, literally grilling these guys, interview style, so what would you like to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? What are your goals? What are your ambitions? Just they're like, whoa, bro. So.
And this is what age? This is when you're a teenager?
Around college. Yeah.
Yep.
And so needless to say, that didn't go very well for me. So I was just getting dumped and dumped and dumped. I literally couldn't make it past 3 days. So I got so desperate that I literally went on the internet and started searching dating principles and stuff. So I came across this company, and you might have heard of them if you ever read Neil Strauss's #1 bestseller called The Game. And they were literally a pickup artist company. And at first I was, obviously I didn't agree with necessarily everything that they were about or trying to do. But as I was listening to what they were really saying, it actually really made a lot of sense. And what they would talk about is this principle of social dynamics. And social dynamics really is marketing, because what is marketing? Marketing is all about being able to build relationships, just like you're trying to do if you're trying to date people. So a lot of those principles kind of used a lot of terminology and concepts that we use in marketing and carry over. And I feel like some of it might be easier to understand when you can see it in that perspective or analogy of dating, and be able to carry it over to marketing. So social dynamics is really just the study of relationships.
Got it. And as you talk about it, there's several principles that are part of it. What are these 4 principles?
So the 4 principles are creating your own kingdom. And thank you, Tyler. These are completely stolen from real social dynamics. Creating your own kingdom, open all, which is really talking about increasing your open ratio, social circle game, and non-zero subgame.
Got it. So let's dive into that, creating your own kingdom. Again, these are, as you get into them, people will recognize like, oh, I may have called that something different, but I've heard this before, is what I need to do for my marketing. So what does that mean to create your own kingdom? And how does that relate to generating traffic and consumer targeting?
Right. So if you were a teacher or a self-help coach and somebody came to you and they said, John, I want to give you $1 million for your services. And you said to them, no, I don't want you as my customer. That guy over there, those 2 that don't want me, that's what I'm going to chase. That's what I want to go after. That's what I care about. It sounds insane. We would never do that. But in reality, this is what we do sometimes, which is we will go after, we have this idea in our head of who we think is our customer, and we're going to chase them to the bitter end, whether they want us or not, instead of really looking at the data and the analytics to see who are the people who would already love my product, who are the people who would already benefit from what I want to do, would be begging to give me $1 million. So in the pickup community, I thought it was interesting because I expected when I was listening to them for them to say something like, I can make any woman fall in love with me. But that wasn't the case. What they learned how to do was train their own mind to be able to not go after the bad opportunities and actually go after the millions of people that would like them. So whereas somebody like me, who was being very clingy and had something like we call one-itis, they would not allow their mind or the attention to even go to those places. They wouldn't pay attention to or give energy to the people that were not the right fit for them. They would put all of their energy into the people that were the right fit. And so what does this look like in marketing? This really comes down to your targeting. And a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just guess. They'll just say like, I think that this is my target market and I'm just going to double down and fail. Instead of really using the technology that we do have at hand to be able to look at things like big data, competitor analytics, what's already working for our competitors, and really be able to find those markets, those groups of people who would really benefit from our product and service, so that we don't have to be chasing them, but instead they will be drawn to us as soon as they hear about us. A couple products that are actually really important for people to know about in that regard. One of them is called SimilarWeb. And so this is basically a tool that allows you to see your competitors' analytics and other industry leaders' analytics. So as you're looking through who would my target audience be, obviously the first step is, yes, you want to create an avatar and, figure out what are their hopes, their dreams, their wishes, how does my product solve their problem? But like I was saying before, you don't want to just guess. You want to use all these tools to inform what your true avatar is. So if you use something like SimilarWeb, you could go onto competitor websites and see what are the things that are already working in my industry? What are the types of keywords or phrases that people are already searching and looking for that I can model or that I can use in my business? There is so much power to being able to model what is already working, and tools like SimilarWeb really give you that ability. One other one that I want to jump into is big data, but before I do you have any questions on that part?
No, I think that's a great point. I want to maybe add one thing is, one thing we do for a lot of our clients, I love, SimilarWeb is such a great tool, and competitive analysis, really learning and seeing what your competitors are doing. Because if they've been in the market for longer than you, then they, especially if you're launching something new, you can learn if they're still doing something, it means it's working most likely, right? And so you can learn what's working, what's not fairly quickly in doing that. Another way to do it is through market research, right? So we do a lot
Yep.
at Harvest Growth, as you know, but our listeners do as well, is surveys directed to consumers. Find your audience, ask them key questions, and really understand what makes them interested in your product. And it comes back to the audience, the offer, and the messaging that are really going to drive success for your campaign as well. And that before we jump into big data, I do want to stress too, like this is something that's a little different from our origins at Harvest Growth, where we started in just, national TV marketing, right? This is before Facebook really existed, at least in the same way it does today, 15, 16 years ago. One of the things that it still works really well today, but it's broad, right? So when we get to TV, we're often learning on digital, learning in market research to really fine tune things and then go out to that broad audience. But today we're focused on digital marketing, which can be very successful. Many of our clients, that's quote unquote all they do. It can still be a very big campaign without getting to TV, and still, it's the majority of our work today is purely digital. And one of the big differences between TV and digital is this big data. So I'd love to have you describe what that means and how that helps.
Well, in kind of a good transition in between those two, you were talking about the market research that we do and the importance that it's so important. And one thing I wanted to point out with that is I am not political. This is not whether you love or hate Trump. But one thing that I think that he did well was his original marketing campaign. Not as thrilled about his second run, but his first run, he did really well in digital. And one of the things that I noticed is, so even with print media, which normally is hard to, make very detailed towards specific avatars, he did do that. So my mom and I both got a kind of like a promotional flyer for one of his campaigns. And they had my big data. They had it in the bag because when I got my flyer, it was pink and purple, which are my favorite colors. It was the girl on the cover was mid-30s, and there was a cat. Now, if you know me at all, I'm obsessed with cats. I'm in my mid-30s, and I love pink and purple. My mom, same day, got the same or flyer from the same exact campaign, and hers featured somebody in their mid-60s. There was more muted tones, like your kind of grays and browns. And there was just a family. There was a picture of like a family. So they were able to specifically give messaging and even just imagery that would psychologically affect my mom differently than it would affect me. And so they knew what were my personality type, what were the things that I would respond to, and were able to send me different types of messaging than they were sending to my mom. So being able to personalize those messages is incredibly important. And so where big data comes in is knowing who those people are on the other side of your messaging campaigns to be able to give them that right message. So this is a kind of touchy subject because I'm sure you've heard all the debates about iOS 14 and people wanting their privacy and all this stuff. To me, it's always been, not that I'm laughing at you, but I'm laughing at you behind your back, because to me, I'm like, guys, if you only knew how much tracking is really going on, you wouldn't even be worrying about your phone. Turning off your phone tracking is just not going to help you because everyone is doing it now. That's how most of these companies are making their money. And I'll give you the best case in point, your credit card company. So if you own a credit card, whether that's Visa or MasterCard, Visa and MasterCard takes that purchase data and they sell it to third-party data companies. And then those data companies sell it to marketers. Now, they don't sell your name. They can't sell personalized information. So you don't need to be scared. I actually don't think it's a terrible thing unless, of course, it got in the hands of the wrong person. But they just sell your device ID. So basically your computer think of it as like a number, so that they know that if advertising goes to this computer, this person also clicked on things like cats in my case, or clicked on a lot of pink and purple advertisements in the past. So now you know, okay, this person not only likes things about cats and likes pink and purple, but what was their purchase history for the last 30, 60 days? What was their purchase history for the last year? And things like purchase history are so incredibly powerful when it comes to selling a product or service, because I'll give an example. One of our clients in the past did kind of like data storage. And so they had a software program, And so all we really needed was, we're like, okay, anybody who bought the hardware last year, we know that this year is going to need software. So by being able to get some of that big data and figure out who are the purchasers of the hardware, we now have this huge, massive leg up in figuring out who our target market is, who is going to benefit from the software. Now, big data usually is coincided with smart devices. So basically anything that can track large amounts of data and organize it. So again, that could be things like your smartwatch, your smartphone. A lot of people have smart houses now, anything that can track large amounts of data. But it doesn't really have to be a smart device, because like we just talked about, things like credit cards, your location, where are you walking, which is, I guess that is part of your smartphone, but basically anything that collects large amounts of data on people. So you can utilize some of this big data and filter it into your campaigns. Facebook itself has become a big data company because of the amount of information they've been able to collect on people just based on their browsing history. So it's just this very powerful tool that can help you target the right people and figure out what messaging would be right for which groups of people.
Yeah, and iOS 14 certainly changed the way and the type of data we can get, but there's still so much data available in a good way for marketers to really help us fine tune, like you said, making sure we're talking to the right people as we get going. Let's jump over to OpenAll. It was one of the principles you mentioned as well. Describe that for us. How does that help?
So OpenAll is really this principle of the more people, so in the game, right, they would say the more people that you meet, the more people you have a chance to build an attraction with. And in marketing, the same thing is very true, right? The more reach that you have, the more people that you can put your product in front of, the better chance you have of finding customers. So a lot of people think that, okay, if I just post every day, or just really love my own product, or these types of things, that people are just going to come find me. And that is true for a select lucky few, but that is not the norm. The norm is that there's got to be some way that people do find you other than just hoping and praying. And normally that comes down to utilizing other people's existing audiences. So that can be things like posting in groups where your target market might be spending their time. Obviously, the big one we're talking about here today, digital advertising. This is a no-brainer way to be able to expand your reach and put your product or service in front of thousands, even millions of eyeballs, and really give it the chance to be seen and be heard. Another big thing with that is where you could use things like influencers. So influencers obviously already have their own network of people. They already have big groups that are following what they're doing. And so you can utilize influencers to be able to put your product out in front of more people.
Absolutely. So find influencers that we talk a lot with our clients. They often ask questions on influencers, and they can work well. It's not a scattershot approach. I think you just mentioned this. It's finding influencers that match or speak to your target market, right? So just because they have a lot of followers, if they're not your followers, they're not going to buy still, right? So it's making sure that they line up with you'd rather have a small or micro influencers with fewer followers that is right in the market than a massive one that speaks to all the wrong people, right? Whether that's age demographics, whether that's interests, lifestyle, whatever it might be. So finding the right, it's part of your messaging, frankly, and targeting. So they fit just like a regular component in your marketing campaign. I would just say go ahead.
One little tiny tip there too, that just like a fun extra. One thing I used to like to do before I really got into the advertising side is, if you don't have a lot of money to spend on advertising and you're trying to build your organic, a good thing to do would be look at some of these bigger pages, look at their tagged photos, and see where did they get their traffic from originally? Like what other big pages were tagging them in photos or in articles, because that's where that page got its traffic from, if they weren't running ads. I'm saying if you find like an organically built page, because just like things like SimilarWeb, from there you can say, okay, clearly these people got some shout outs from these big pages over here and it worked for them. So maybe I can approach those same pages as well and try to collaborate. So maybe you could do something like we're doing right now, where you're doing a podcast with that person. Because when you do that, guess what? That page is going to post it, right? So that is just another little trick to use when you're trying to build your audience.
And growing your network. Love it. How would you say buying decisions have really changed over the last, say, 10 years?
So I feel like there's been a big change, and there's also been no change. And I'll explain what I mean. So there's a lot of confusion going on where there's a group of people who think, this has worked for me for 20 years. I don't have to change and everything's just going to be fine. Those people are going to go out of business in the next 5 years because people fundamentally have changed where they're spending the most of their viewing hours. So whereas prior to social media and the digital age, you could just put advertising in magazines and print ads and billboards because that's where people were spending the most of their viewing hours. So it really worked 20 years ago. But that isn't where people are spending their viewing hours now. When people come home from work, they're less likely to pull out a magazine and more likely to surf the web. So now you've got to go where the people are. And right now the people are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They're on Google. They're on some of these online forums. So you really have to take advantage of where people are. That being said, that doesn't mean that all the age-old practices of marketing itself have changed. So I think where people get it wrong is they neglect some of the age-old principles of, hey, you still have to be, have your messaging come across where you're hitting some of these psychological triggers. In marketing, it's always been about the carrot and the stick of really being able to present things in a way where you are helping people solve their problem, helping people achieve their dreams. And so some of these age-old principles of marketing itself that you can find in textbooks from years back still apply today. And I feel like some of those are getting ignored because some of the newer tactics are, they just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so I think it's important to take some of those age-old principles of marketing and really focusing on psychological motivations of people, but being able to utilize the new platforms of, okay, now where do we present this messaging to those people? Where are they spending their time? And today that really is much more in the digital space. And so I don't think that the old platforms are obsolete. I think that it's all about, we always talk about the 7-touch theory. Somebody doesn't buy just because they saw something once. They buy because they trust your brand and they've seen you all over the place. So if you are utilizing old school marketing tactics and you've got yourself in a magazine and a billboard, that could be great, as long as you then also follow it up with other touches and other platforms that they're going to be spending probably more time on.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about the digital landscape is it's much easier to get those 7 touches. Where back in the day, you mentioned magazines, right? You got to have 7 issues or 7 different magazines your audience happens to see it in, or maybe magazines plus TV. And as I mentioned before, we still do a lot of TV marketing. We just realize that TV is no longer a silo, right? As you're mentioning, it's not a standalone, but it does drive amazing awareness, right? So if you can hit a broad audience with your product or service, start on TV can be a great vehicle to do that. But digital matches up with these other marketing channels really well. So when you see it, the first touch maybe is on TV. Visit the website, but not ready to purchase yet. Well, now all of a sudden we can retarget to you over and over again. So they feel surrounded, right? In a positive way. Again, exactly. As long as you're hitting the right target market, right? It's marketing becomes a positive thing. No one likes to be marketed over and over to, again, from the wrong stuff, right? The wrong businesses. But if it's speaking to them, it doesn't feel like marketing, right? So it's finding that right audience, a message that matters to them, and then finding in the right medium that's important to them. And then it leads to the sale and a happy sale, right? Not forcing them into it, but having them want to come back to you. And those 7 touches are much easier because now this person's interested. Now it's a warm audience. I can almost quote unquote force a touch or pay for a touch, right? marketing directly to people that visit the sites, whether it's through Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, et cetera, but other digital marketing channels as well. So yeah, I love that. I will say too, one thing I think that's been really helpful for us as a business, and I think why we've had over the years such a great success rate in digital, is frankly because of our TV learnings, right? So I always use the word classically trained. It's kind of an old term in marketing, right? But we as a business, we cut our teeth on the TV side, where you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a launch. And those learnings now, the process we can do much less expensively to start out on digital, but it's the same process, right? So that the way it looks is different. The words you use, the way the marketing is done, et cetera, of course, right? But the process, the learnings, the way you start, having that classic marketing model, there's a lot to learn from it, even when we start in a digital world.
Absolutely.
So you talked also about the social circle game. Can you elaborate a little bit further on that?
Yes. So the picture, if you will, again, in the dating world, is that these guys would literally utilize each other's social circles. So instead of only going after strangers, obviously they would be, meeting each other's friends, doing a lot of social events together, but also working off of each other in a way that they would appear cool. So, they would make sure that they're always frequenting the same place. So they walk in there and everybody knows who they are, and their date goes, oh, wow, this person must be really popular. Like, maybe there's something to this. So the same principle in marketing is, it's called social proof. And it basically is utilizing your own network to be able to look cool to your target market. Now, again, this sounds like, I don't care about looking cool, everybody would say that, but you got to realize, what did we just say? Marketing really comes down to those psychological triggers. What are the 7 basic driving needs that people have that make them buy? If you claim you don't care about those things, then you don't care about marketing. And not unfortunately, but the truth is, one of those driving needs is the need for status. And so, people, we've all heard of jumping on the bandwagon and all these things. People want what other people like. They want to be part of what's popular. They don't want FOMO. They don't want to miss out on anything. And so if something looks like it's popular or that it worked well for somebody else, even just, we're talking about testimonials, how important that is social proof. So one way in the very beginning, when you don't have a lot of social proof, is to utilize your network and just literally, I don't want to say make agreements with your friends, but it kind of is making agreements with your friends that, like, hey, if I'm going to engage with your content, if you engage with my content. And so utilizing those relationships in a give and take to where you're commenting on their stuff, they're commenting on yours. And so there's this dialogue going on the content you put up, and it looks like, oh, people are paying attention. People care about this. Now, we have to be very careful because especially on platforms like Facebook, Facebook does have severe rules against quote unquote gaming the system. And so there are things that you cannot do. Obviously that you can't just buy followers. If you try to buy comments, buy follows, buy likes, your account's going to get shut down pretty fast. They're pretty good at catching that stuff now. So you can't do it in an overt way like that, but that doesn't mean that you can't still strategize and still get your friends in your network to be involved in your product launches. With things like your blog or on your website, it's a lot easier because your website doesn't have rules like that. You can do whatever you want, So there's really 2 aspects to this. There is what we just talked about, which is the social proof. But then there's a second side that I would say is even more important, especially with digital. And that is the ability to game the algorithm. So the way that the algorithm works, I mean, anytime anybody says that, take it with a grain of salt, because nobody knows 100% how it works, but we have generalized ideas and principles of some of the ways it does. So one of those is that it's looking at how much engagement a piece of content gets within the first hour and within the first 24 hours. Facebook and Instagram and even LinkedIn, they want to show content to people that they want to see. They want to keep people on their platform. That's their goal. So if they see that a piece of content is getting a lot of engagement right off the bat, it tells Facebook, okay, this is something people want to see. And they will actually, if it's a piece of organic content, your reach is going to open up. It's going to stay in the newsfeed longer, and it's going to stay higher up in the newsfeed. If it's a piece of paid content, Facebook will actually charge you less to run that ad, which means, again, for the same amount of dollars, you're going to be reaching more people. So yes, there is the social proof side of things where, okay, it just looks good to have comments on your content, but there's the other side of it where Facebook itself now says, oh, this is getting engagement. Let me keep this at the top of the newsfeed for a long time. And now real actual customers have a much better chance to see that piece of content. So it is the social proof of gaming people's psychology, but it is more the gaming of the algorithm that can really make a difference in your reach and how many people see your content.
Makes a ton of sense. The last topic you mentioned, or phrasing, I guess, was the non-zero sub game. So as we close out this interview, can you talk a bit about that and how you use that in your marketing?
So I'm sure you guys know in sports, in order for the most part anyhow, in order for one side to win, somebody has to lose. That is a zero sub game. So basically, in order for someone to win, someone's got to lose. In social dynamics, they talk a lot about the importance of giving value. People want to be around people who give value. And it really is the same in business and in marketing. You cannot create situations where it's the deal is one-sided. You have to be looking for win-win situations across the board. Now, a lot of people will look at the win-wins of the product itself, but what I want you guys to start doing is really start looking for the win-wins also within your marketing strategy. So an example of this, there was a good book that came out a couple of years ago from Russell Brunson, who is the founder of ClickFunnels. And he talked about these two business owners who were in the same cul-de-sac, basically. There was a pizza store and a movie store. And they were going after the same target market, and they were just bashing each other left and right, just like, don't go over there. You guys want to have a movie night. Pizza night sucks. You want movie night. And of course, the pizza guy's marketing is, no, make it a pizza party weekend. Movies are lame. Movies are for the past. This is pizza party time. And so they were killing each other left and right. And both of them were getting close to going out of business until one of them finally got the bright idea to, I think it was the pizza owner got the bright idea to go over to the movie store and said, hey, if you put a flyer for our pizzas in each of your movie box, or will you put a flyer for each of our pizzas in your movie box? And the movie guy kind of looked at him like, what's he trying to pull here? And he's like, why would I do that? And he was like, well, because if you do that, then we'll put a flyer for your movies in each of our pizza boxes. And so the guy agreed. And overnight, not only did they double their reach, but they decreased their costs by 50%, because now they were each benefiting off of each other's marketing and each other's audiences. And instead of making it it's pizza or movie, now it was have a pizza and movie night. Why is that so difficult? But that simple change in psychology made all of the difference in the world. And like I said, gave both of them over a 50% increase in profit almost overnight, because now instead of killing each other, they are helping each other. They're utilizing each other's markets. And now everybody who goes to the movie store wants a pizza. Everybody who goes to the pizza store wants a movie. And there are so many opportunities like this within every marketing genre. And so what you want to be looking for is, who are the people who are going after the same target market as you, but not selling the same product? So obviously it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to, if you sell pencils, to partner with another person who sells pencils. But if you sell pencils, you definitely want to be partnering with people who sell erasers. So look for those people that you can join up with in your marketing, that you can build collaborations with, where you're creating these win-win situations.
Love it. These are all such great examples. I think good stories to share. Thank you for bringing all of them to light. I've been out of the dating world for a long time. I'm not going to say how long, but been married for many years. And you bring back a lot of memories of back in the day of dating. Of course, we still go on dates, right? But it's different when you're trying to find somebody as opposed to dating your current spouse. But these are great examples that really all of us can understand and really attribute or bring over to marketing and change our marketing mindset, the way we think about this and the way we drive towards success. I do want to say, at Harvest Growth, one of the reasons we've had great success is over the years, we've developed a proven process of marketing and launching hundreds of products, many of them brand new to market, many of them, in the growing phase as well. And that's part of the scenario. And as Lisa's really proven today, the other half or probably more of the equation is having great people on our team and they clearly know their stuff. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing some of your expertise today and really proving how knowledgeable you are and really sharing so much with others as well. So, not everyone is going to be a fit to work with Harvest Growth, but everybody will be a fit to learn from this and be able to improve their own marketing. So if I do want to encourage our audience, if anybody has any questions, if you'd like to learn more about how potentially you could grow your business, whether you've got a new product you're getting off the ground or a new service that you're looking to grow or something that is out there and just not growing as fast as you'd like, please reach out to us. You can go right to our website, harvestgrowth.com, and set up a phone call actually with one of our product launch experts and just start a conversation. If it makes sense and potentially a good fit, we can chat with myself as well and Lisa as we get campaigns closer to launching and many of our other teammates as well. But this is a great example of what we do as a process. And I hope it helps many of the listeners, I know it will, to follow that same process with your own products and services. Lisa, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, John. And it was great to speak with all you listeners. Have a great week.